Born in 1805, the story goes that 14-year-old Joseph Smith was visited by God and Jesus Christ, who called upon him to restore the true church in preparation for the end of the world and the second coming of Christ. He later transcribed what became the Book of Mormon. According to this new religion, Jesus and Lucifer are brothers, and their father, God, is a human man with a physical body. This God is one of many gods, and he has multiple human wives who give birth to billions of living souls that are sent to earth in order to learn how to become gods themselves. But the most important Mormon belief is Zion. They believe that in 600 BC, their Jewish ancestors fled Jerusalem, built a boat, and sailed to America, where Jesus Christ visited in 33 AD. Mormons were taught that they must find the New Jerusalem in America, and were told that it will be on Lamanite borders, meaning there will be Native Americans there to deal with. They expanded from New York to Ohio and Missouri, but found it difficult to get along with the locals. After going to war with the Missouri militia, about 10,000 Mormons were forced to leave the state in 1839. They then went to Illinois and established their own city, which soon became one of the largest in Illinois, and was granted a charter that allowed them their own municipal court and a militia. In 1841, over 50 years before Theodore Herzl's first Zionist Congress in Switzerland, the Mormons ceremoniously dedicated Palestine for the return of the Jews. Also that year, Smith announced that the angel demands polygamy. Within 3 years, he takes on 40 wives, including girls as young as 13. Like the Masonic order Daughters of Rebecca, they adopt the symbol of the beehive, a symbol of cooperative industry, and Mormons were encouraged to breed and expand. Many took child brides. In 1842, Joseph Smith, who came from a family of Freemasons, was given the rare honor of becoming a Mason on site, meaning that he did not need to do any of the work. Along with other leading church members, Smith was initiated into Freemasonry through all 3 degrees with the wave of the Illinois Grand Master's wand. Within months, thousands of Mormons were initiated into Freemasonry and were using their lodge to grow members of the Mormon Church. The official Mormon endowment ceremonies were introduced, and they reflected Masonic rituals. In 1844, Joseph Smith announced his candidacy for U.S. presidency, and shortly after, was charged with treason and locked up in an Illinois jail, where he was murdered and fell from the window with the Book of Mormon in hand, as the story goes. Joseph Smith was now a martyr, and his prophecy was proven to be true when the Mormons were forced to leave Illinois in 1846. They then began their exodus to the Utah Territory, where they massacred the indigenous population and found their New Jerusalem. The U.S. government allowed the Mormons the freedom to colonize the West and expand their manifest destiny. But after the dirty work was done, polygamy was federally outlawed, and the once anti-American Mormons became hyper-patriotic and made the all-American nuclear family their new public image. The entire Mormon religion is based on the belief that the world will soon end and that a Jewish state must be created in Palestine. The LDS Church, who identify as descendants of ancient Israel, was the only religious organization to officially support Israel's creation in 1948. In 1989, Mormons founded a university in East Jerusalem. The LDS Church is worth billions today. They are the main contender for the most Zionist organization of America. And Charlie Kirk said that half of his team were Mormons. Greg Reese reporting.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Diamond Report Live. Hope you guys are doing well out there tonight. It is 10:05 p.m. on October 26th, 2025. And here we go again, another Diamond Report Live. So hello and welcome to everybody that's here. We've got 3 live streams going all at the same time, as usual. 2 on YouTube, to the 2 channels there, as well as 1 on Rumble. So hello to the Rumblers out there and everybody in chat who is either thinking of joining or will be joining very soon. So yes, I thought we would take a look at the news. We've got some interesting things to look at yet again this week. And I wanted to first draw your attention to this first article here on Hal's website, halturnerradioshow.com. If you don't know who I am, my name is Doug Diamond. I am the host of this show that you tend to be tuning into at the moment. It is called The Diamond Report Live. And we will be running probably, let's see here, 2 to 3 hours, I guess, is what we normally do. 2 to 3 hour broadcast. And note, it is commercial free. You will not hear any ads for prepping or, water filtration or supplements or buying gold and silver or any of that nonsense. You won't hear that here. So just remember that when it comes time to help me out. Now, I'm just joking, but, many of you guys out there are sharing the videos, and a few people have stepped up to help financially. So you know who you are, and thank you very much for that. So, yes, my name is Doug, and we will go through the news here in just a second. I wanted to mention just up front here, we got, I think, daylight savings time kicking in next week. And note that there may be a slight shift in the start time of the show starting next week. So stay tuned for that. I will let you know the details. I'm not sure of them myself quite yet, but I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. And, I figured doing it at the same exact time that we move away from daylight savings time would, of course, be the most confusing way to do it. So that's the way I've chosen to do it. So now we'll talk about it later. I'll send out a email blast on the Substack, and make sure you're on that Substack list. And you can scan the QR code up there in the upper left corner, or you could just go to diamonddisc.substack.com to join the list. And thank you to everybody who's already on that list. So anyway, let's take a look at the news. We've got Hal's website pulled up here. This is brand new, right off the hot from the press, I guess they might say. 2 U.S. Navy aircraft go down in the South China Sea. And it says 2 Navy aircraft from the USS Nimitz went down in the South China Sea on Sunday, meaning today, in separate incidents only minutes apart. The first crash involved a MH-60R Seahawk helicopter from the Battle Cats Squadron, which went into the water around 2:45. During what the Navy called routine operations, all 3 crew members were recovered alive. Less than an hour later, at 3:15, a 2-seat FA-18F Super Hornet from the Fighting Redcock Squadron also went down while flying from the same carrier. Both pilots ejected and were rescued. So no one were injured. No one was lost in the crashes. However, I thought this analysis was kind of interesting. He says separate, minutes apart. Yep, sure. Okay. No connection whatsoever. Nothing to see here, folks. No electronic warfare being used. Move along with your tinfoil hats. Just a coincidence? Yeah, right. So 2 aircraft are gone, but both official crews are safe and sound. I want to see the footage of the crashes and the recoveries from the water. Otherwise, I'm inclined to think they're being used in a covert mission. Yeah, and they both disappear within pretty much minutes of each other. I don't know. I thought that's very peculiar, and yes, electronic warfare may very well be the answer here as far as what China may be involved in taking down our military assets here, but who knows? Maybe it really was a coincidence. Yeah. Okay, and then let's see. This is the other important one, I think, from his site. Hurricane Melissa to make landfall in Jamaica, Category 4 or 5 at landfall. And you can see the wide swath here that it's projected to do in the next, few hours. Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean, or Caribbean, as some people say, is on track to make landfall in the middle of Jamaica on Tuesday. The storm, already a Category 4 with sustained winds of 140 miles per hour, will be affecting the island within hours. So there's more information here, including embedded video. And let's see. This VentuSky is one of the sites that I like to look at as far as tracking hurricanes. And note the completely natural 45-degree angle that the Hurricane Melissa track is showing here. So yes, that is not geoengineered. That's not steered. It's completely natural. And again, put your tinfoil hat on and just assume that everything's totally fine. Nothing's geoengineered. But anyway, yeah, you can see here from the Venture Sky website here, we've got some pretty high winds in this whatever category it's sitting at right now. Looking like around 80 miles per hour, maybe, maximum at the moment. So if you're in the Jamaica area or know people that are, hopefully they will be taking cover very soon. And I guess Cuba, too. It looks like it's going to be rolling right over the southern end of Cuba as well. So who knows where it's actually going to go, but it's an interesting trajectory. They've got it going straight north and east. So pretty wild. And yes, completely natural. So let's see. Let's look at needtoknow.news. This is G. Edward Griffin's site. I've got a few headlines pulled up from here. Just thought I would bring these to your attention, and you can check them out if you want by going to the site. Democrat activists openly express sick and disturbing views at No Kings protests, which we're a week on from that now. But, yep, the estimated 250,000 protesters attended the Chicago No Kings rally. Yeah, I think overall they were saying originally there were 7 million people involved in the that was the estimate in the No Kings protest, and then I've heard other people say there's no way that it could possibly have been 7 million. There were a lot, and it probably was in the millions, but maybe more like 1 or as much as 3 million and not 7. So I don't know. No one knows exactly, but I thought it was kind of interesting that it was way overhyped. An estimated 250,000 protesters attended the Chicago version of the No Kings rally last weekend. 2 Chicago residents who attended expressed shocking commentary. An elementary school teacher, I won't bother mentioning her name, mocked the assassination of Charlie, and a man identified as this other person, Moises, called for ICE officers to be GUNNED down. Yeah, and you may have seen the clips of the people here that are calling for people to be hurt. This is the woman that they mention here. Mocked the assassination of Charlie. Yeah, she's pointing a finger into her neck, like a gun. And then this guy right here is going on the record saying that ICE people needed to be GUNNED'd. So anyway, demonstrator in Seattle said that he wanted to KILL Stephen Miller, which is one of Trump's main guys. A critic noted that the event was used to stir up hate against people who do not agree with the left, than offering any constructive action to improve our country. Yeah, well, they are the ones fomenting violence. All of the violence seems to be coming from the left, but that's what they love. When you have a predominant group of baby killers out there, they don't care about you and I. That is for sure. All right, and then let's see here. Thought this one was kind of interesting. Another Trump appointee here. $40 billion bailout for Argentina, set to benefit a former Soros colleague of Treasury Chief Scott Bessent. Or some people say Bessent. I'm not sure which it is. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent increased funding up to $40 billion to Javier Milei's government, double the previous pledge. Argentina is already $60 billion in debt and has a history of currency devaluation. In addition, President Milei further devalued his country's currency, sold off its assets, and fronted for 3 massive meme coin rug pulls. Originally, the U.S. pledged $20 billion, but U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is a former Soros hedge fund manager, advocated for an additional $20 billion to backstop a private fund of private investors that bought Argentinian debt. When Argentina defaults, the U.S. will reimburse the private bankers for the second $20 billion. Reports indicate the hedge fund billionaire Rob Citroni, a personal friend of Bessent, made the Treasury Secretary wealthy in the past when they both worked for George Soros. Citrone used his Discovery Capital Fund and bet heavily on Argentina, purchasing Argentine debt and equity. Argentina's economy crashed, and Citrone pressed his former colleague to use U.S. taxpayer money to cover the loss. Of course. That's always the case, isn't it? Then it says soybean farmers are angry with Trump's tariffs as China stopped buying soybeans from the U.S., damaging U.S. farmers. China is now buying soybeans from Argentina. Trump has now proposed buying beef from Argentina. You may have heard that. But this will negatively affect cattle ranchers in the U.S. America's first supporters and taxpayers are disappointed. Yes, to say the least. Anyway, that is another article on the same site here. Government shutdown may cause cancellation of food stamps for 42 million Americans. I think it's all digital now, though, isn't it? I don't think that's actually stamps anymore. If the government shutdown that was caused by the argument over health insurance subsidies and extending health care to migrants continues, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, food stamp program will be paused beginning November 1st. I think that is this coming weekend. It will affect 42 million Americans. SNAP is already set to be reduced as Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act made significant changes to SNAP food stamps, including stricter eligibility requirements and new work mandates that could lead to millions losing their benefits. This policy begins November 1st. Many individuals, including older adults and parents of teenagers, will need to prove work or training to maintain their SNAP benefits. SNAP is used for school lunches. So anyway, yeah, there have been some people out there on social media, quite a few of them. Right here's some of the embedded videos, just a few, of people threatening to become violent and start stealing as soon as the EBT food stamps are cut off, if that's what happens, which most likely that is what's going to be happening in the coming days around the 1st. So, the Democrats are completely responsible for this, the Schumer shutdown, as they say, but they do want to foment the civil war in the United States, and starting with people who can't afford to eat is a really good first step for that. So, yes, the people who are on the SNAP program most likely will be losing their benefits very soon. So, anyways, it will be an interesting next few days. Let's just put it that way. But, yeah, November 1st is the day to watch on all of that. But before that, we have the air traffic controllers who will be not getting paid as well. Not to mention, TSA and some of the other different parts of the government that are struggling to pay their employees at this point. So we'll see where it all goes. Man, it's not looking good. Riot erupts at Irish migrant hotel after 10-year-old allegedly sexually assaulted. So it goes on and on here with the folks in the UK and Europe in general with the migrant influxes and the rape gangs coming into the various countries in the UK. Dublin, a crowd estimated at 2,000 people rioted over an illegal migrant who had evaded deportation and was accused of raping a 10-year-old little girl. They headed toward a migrant hotel but were held back by the police. The government bought the 764-bed hotel to house migrants over the objections of the local Irish citizens. That's happening all over the UK. The accused man's name has not been released, but an Arabic interpreter was requested, and it was reported that he came from an African country to Ireland 6 years ago, of course. Outraged by accusations that an asylum seeker had sexually assaulted a 10-year-old girl, thousands of flag-waving, bottle-throwing, firework-wielding Irish citizens surrounded a migrant hotel in southwest Dublin. This was on Thursday night, setting fire to a police vehicle. So, yeah, the police are clearly working for the globalists, as is the government. So they're just doing what they're told to do. We're just doing our duty. We're just doing our jobs. Yes, but they're doing the wrong thing. And they're doing the wrong thing all over the UK. 6 people were arrested from a furious crowd estimated to have numbered approximately 2,000. So what's interesting to me on this whole thing is, and we do have a video tonight about Ireland, so we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But what's interesting to me is this whole concept of vigilante justice, just like you remember the old Western movies where somebody would break the law and a group of people from town or whatever would get together and go and string them up. I think that may be what is in store for things in the UK. It's just a guess, but starting in Ireland, that would make sense if that is what happens, as far as just groups of people getting together because their government is on the side of the globalists, on the side of the migrants, on the side of making sure that the native people that live there, the people that have been there for forever, are the ones that are the victims. So because of that, my guess is you're going to see a rise in vigilante justice. And maybe not just in Ireland, it could spread. But yeah, it's really getting very bad over there as far as the various rape gangs and migrants allowed to literally do anything and everything they want with little to no punishment. I thought this one was interesting too. From the grave, Virginia Giuffre names former Israeli prime minister as her Epstein abuser. And there he is. We mentioned him last week. Ehud Barak. Virginia Giuffre, a Epstein victim, reportedly committed suicide in April at the age of 41 following a car accident. Critics are skeptical that she took her own life. We talked about that when that happened. Her book, Nobody's Girl, was published posthumously. Giuffre was recruited from Trump's Mar-a-Lago club by Epstein. Americans want to know who in our government has been compromised in the massive blackmail scheme. In the book, she claims she was beaten and raped by a well-known prime minister as she begged for her life. Giuffre has in the past indicated Israel's former prime minister Ehud Barak, who was also its defense minister, as one of the many elite people who raped her in the court filings. Barak has repeatedly denied the claims made by Giuffre and said he had no knowledge that Epstein was running a sex ring. No, of course not. Just like Bill Clinton didn't have any knowledge. The former prime minister and defense minister was a personal friend of Epstein's and received some $2.3 million in payments from a foundation associated with Epstein from 2004 to 2006. Yes, but he's completely innocent, never did anything wrong. And it's mentioning Prince Andrew here as well. Just like him, never did anything wrong. So, of course, I'm joking. Anyways, that is on needtoknow.news. We got several articles from there tonight, I guess. Evil. Bayer Monsanto seeks legal immunity for Roundup pesticide. It is 2 votes away from passing. So you know about Bayer, right? Bayer bought pesticide giant Monsanto in 2018 and has paid out $11 billion in injury and death claims from its Roundup pesticide product. The House is 2 votes away from passing a spending bill that could shield Bayer from tens of thousands of Roundup cancer lawsuits by blocking new pesticide label warnings. Section 453 of the fiscal year 2026 appropriations bill would prevent lawsuits against Bayer Monsanto and other pesticide manufacturers for claims associated with glyphosate and other chemicals. Section 453 would also prohibit the EPA from issuing new guidance or changing pesticide labels that differ from existing assessments. This means that if the EPA does not classify glyphosate as a carcinogen, states cannot impose additional warnings because states cannot require a pesticide label that is different from the EPA's label. So protecting big chemical. That's what's going on here. So that is about as evil as it gets. Right there. About. So anyway, there is a little bit more here on this article if you're interested in that. I know lots of people are really good at putting out petitions and so forth. I think there's some links here to that. There's at least one petition that I'm aware of in helping get this done as far as making sure that Congress does the right thing. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes, and it's not looking too good because, like Big Pharma, Big Chemical has many, many irons in the fire, and they have bought many politicians as well. So, anyway. And then this one, yet again, here we go again, California, illegal alien semi-truck driver from India on drugs crashes into multiple cars on the freeway and kills 3. Now, this guy looks an awful lot like the guy in Florida that did the U-turn on the interstate and killed 3 people there. And his name is Singh, S-I-N-G-H. But it's not the same guy. They just happen to have the same last name. 21-year-old illegal alien from India who was allegedly under the influence of drugs is accused of smashing into 8 vehicles. Yeah, he hit him from behind. He didn't stop. and causing a chain reaction of crashes resulting in the deaths of 3 people. Singh has been charged with gross vehicular manslaughter and DUI. The video appears to indicate that he never stepped on the brakes. Yeah, he just literally ran him right over. Dash camera footage of the crash showed the truck slam into multiple vehicles in the fiery crash and then veer off into the shoulder and ram into additional vehicles before coming to a stop. The 54-year-old man who was driving a Toyota Tacoma, and 2 occupants in a Kia Sorento were killed in the crash. A 43-year-old driver of a Dodge Avenger and a 59-year-old individual who was standing outside of a vehicle both suffered major injuries. There was a similar accident involving an Indian trucker who does not speak English in Florida in August that also left 3 people dead. That was the guy that did the U-turn that we talked about when that happened. And they both had the same last name, Singh. What are the chances? Now, I guess it's probably like Smith, in India or something. But I do think it's very interesting. Here's the video of the accident. Here, let's see if we can see the dash cam. Let me kind of fast forward past this here. Oh, this is this isn't the dash cam footage. This is just the aftermath of it. Let me see if it's this one. I'm not sure that they will show it on either one of these videos. Nope, I don't see it. But it is out there. I've seen it. And the guy just literally doesn't stop, just mows everybody down in his way. So I don't know if he was sleeping or just completely out of his mind on drugs or what. But it's saying drugs or DUI, so who knows exactly. But it is interesting, and I thought this was a good tweet as well. Here's the latest guy who did the same thing. ICE seeks arrest of California truck driver who killed 3. Read more. And yeah, are they migrants? No, they're criminal intruders. So here's the other guy. This is the guy that did the U-turn in Florida, and this is the other guy that we were just reading about here. Harjinder Singh and Jashanpreet Singh. We've been invaded by Singhs. They can't drive worth a F. Yeah, and that's not the only one. There was also another, I think, Harjinder Singh, this guy, or someone with the exact same name that crashed into a bridge as well, or didn't crash into it. He drove over a bridge with too much weight, and the bridge collapsed. That's what it was. And that was before this accident here where the guy did the U-turn in the interstate. So anyway, it's happening all over the place, apparently, and that is not good. Jaw-dropping, California Governor Newsom gave 62,000 commercial driver's licenses to illegals. 62,000. So there's some good memes here as well. Yep. Number 1 in homeless, number 1 in poverty, number 1 in addiction, number 1 in gas prices, number 1 in income tax, gas tax. It just goes on here. Yeah, and he did announce that he is going to be thinking very seriously about running for president. So I thought that was pretty funny. Governor Newsom. Yep. And then if you want to get the latest Lego collection, here it is. You can get this probably at your neighborhood Walmart or something. Thought that was pretty good. And America has become a daily game of don't get killed by violent blacks, illegal Mexican cartel members, and Indians driving 90 miles per hour in semis. So that is true. It's a daily game. So you got to stay on your toes. I thought this one was pretty wild just because you wouldn't think anybody would believe this, but apparently they did. James O'Keefe exposes massive $100 billion federal contracting scam in latest undercover video. And I thought, okay, what's he doing, like Mrs. Doubtfire or something? Because it's clearly a wig and some silly glasses. Biden administration awarded over $630 billion in federal contracts under the SBA, Small Business Administration program designed to empower minority-owned small businesses. Over $183 billion was awarded in 2024 alone. A large portion of the money has been awarded to pass-through shell company schemes during that time. The companies get no-bid contracts, skim over half of the money off the top, and subcontract out nearly all of the work. Taxpayers are defrauded, and communities that were intended to have been helped lose opportunities. So that's kind of what this is about. We won't go into a whole lot of detail here. But you can see James O'Keefe doing his thing here with a silly wig. Yeah, cheap wig and eyeglasses. says hilariously hiding his identity with a cheap wig and eyeglasses, O'Keefe filmed a meeting he had with the director of contracts for ATI Government Solutions, where the scam was openly discussed during the meal. So, yep, pretty silly, but O'Keefe does it again. And apparently he's able to do just about anything he wants to get the truth to come out, because if you can get away with cheap eyeglasses and a wig, there isn't much else that you can't do, I think. So, way to go, James. Why mirror life is causing some genetic scientists to freak out. Mirror life. Some genetic scientists, this is on technocracy.news, some genetic scientists have a conscience and common sense. Dr. Kate gave up her $1 million grant from the U.S. National Science Foundation when she realized how dangerous the research became. She said mirror cells would likely be completely invisible to the human immune system. The National Science Foundation came up with this stupid idea in the first place. Think about it. You ingest a harmful bacteria strain that is easily defeated by your immune system, but if its DNA is mirrored, your body will not even see it, and you could be dead in 2 days. So that is what this article is about, genetic engineering. So isn't that lovely? The WHO and the EU launch AI system to monitor social media and online, quote, misinformation in real time. Hey, it's free. No wonder that is real-time sledgehammer has already spread in 110 countries. This will be worse than anything that we experienced during the Great Panic of 2020, which, you know what I'm talking about. The strategy is to encircle the globe and then squeeze the U.S. into compliance. Offenders will be detected and punished in real time. So get ready. Sounds a lot like the Beast system being deployed. So that is Article 2 here on technocracy.news. And then this is the third one. Big A. Robots will help avoid hiring 600,000 workers. Amazon, a thoroughly technocratic company, is the second largest employer in the U.S. and is giving us a picture of how robots will fit into the future. Whitewashing it with a term like cobots, as in C-O-B-O-T-S, cobots, won't mask the reality that 600,000 new hires over the next few years will be robots, not people. Any warehouse operation of other companies should experience similar results. So, cobots. It makes them sound like they're working with us, not replacing us, doesn't it? How silly. So that's the technocracy.news article. A couple articles as well on Liberty Beacon. Secretive banking heir revealed as $130 million private benefactor to pay the troops. So it says billionaire recluse Timothy Mellon has been revealed as the now formerly anonymous private donor who gave $130 million to the United States government to help pay troops during the shutdown. The virtuous signaling of Mark Cuban, who's worth more than Mellon, won't even do that for Ukraine, where half of his family, quote unquote, is from. So that is how, I guess, in the interim anyway, that is how the military is being paid by a generous, anonymous, but now non-anonymous donation. Timothy Mellon, $130 million. So how about that? Paying the troops, keeping them, at least at the moment, keeping them afloat. Hillary called the devil in disguise, posting her own 78th birthday message. Twice failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton got some pushback on Sunday after sharing her own birthday message, because she probably had no one else to wish her a happy birthday. In social media posts, Clinton acknowledged the date and accompanied the message with a photo of herself as a child. I'm 78 today and thinking of all the people who helped this young girl grow and thrive along the way. Today, I'd love to hear about how you're showing up in ways, large or small, for the next generation. Maybe someone will be inspired by your comment to be part of a child's village in the same way, she wrote. She just thinks she's a hero, doesn't she? Just full of herself. Happy birthday to this future president. Or maybe not. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. She wished herself a happy birthday. Okay, and then this one is probably not one that you've heard of, and maybe because of the skin color of the victim, perhaps. But there's so many of these things. This one was particularly bad, and the reason that I wanted to bring your attention to it was because it gets even worse. Not only does the murder of this little girl, is if that wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. French court hands rare life sentence to murder of 12-year-old Lola Davier, I guess probably. Says, see this report we had put out on the hideous murder of Paris schoolgirl Lola from 3 years ago. So this happened in October 2022. Another migrant murderer. So it says autopsy results shock France. A vicious murder that may be the tipping point for France. A woke response isn't going to work this time around. So the young girl, I won't get into the details, but let's just say that not only was she killed, but she was her body was used in a black magic ritual from the torturer and murderer here, who was from Algeria, involving killing and decapitating, okay, and drinking of the blood and so forth. I mean, it is really, really bad. And so on top of all of that, yes, they are going to, jail this person, and theoretically, I'm not sure if it's just for life or if it's a death sentence or what. Let me look and see if it says. It says this article puts out the costs of incarcerating the psychopathic woman. It's a woman that did this, by the way. To the French taxpayer, we feel that the discussion moving toward the death penalty for such crimes on Twitter with the finger pointed at the left for its historic abolition. Yeah, so people are calling for the death penalty for this person who did this, but of course, it's France and it may not ever happen. This is the mother, this is the brother. The murderer, a now 27-year-old Algerian woman, illegally present in France at the time of the crime, will serve life without the possibility of commutation. Okay, so anyway, what I was saying was that it got worse is because somewhere in here it mentions the little girl's father. Let me see. Here, the girl's father, Johan, who had been vocal in seeking justice for his daughter, died last year at the age of 49 after falling into alcohol abuse in the wake of his daughter's murder. So not only have this lady and her son lost the sister / daughter here, but the father of the family has also passed away. So wow, what a tragedy this one is. But yeah, this is not something that I was aware of and even heard of back 3 years ago when this happened. So I just think it's interesting. They are trying to hold this person accountable. We'll see what actually happens, but it's not looking good. That is a Liberty Beacon article if you want to look that one up. And then this one I came across and thought I would just mention it because I'm not really that surprised. We don't want his likeness on campus. Protesters move to block Charlie Kirk Memorial at UVU. A plan at UVU to create a memorial to Charlie has been met by protests and a petition signed by thousands to block the effort. So, how about that? Not that surprised, actually. Given the reaction after his death, I'm not surprised at all. One protester declared, "We don't want his likeness on campus." That is hardly a new sentiment since Charlie was assassinated on the campus on September 10th. However, the protest shows the sense of license that many have in opposing anyone with conflicting views, including those represented in memorials. Yeah, I mean, if they put up any sort of a memorial, not only would it get, right here, not only would it get vandalized, I would imagine it would be completely taken down or burned or pushed over and blown up or who knows what. It wouldn't last very long. So anyway, just thought you guys would like a little update there on what's happening on the campus of UVU. Doesn't look like there will be a Charlie Kirk Memorial anytime soon. Not a surprise. All right, and then this one, it's kind of another ridiculous thing that's come up this week. The left double dribbles over Trump's ballroom. You guys have probably heard about the Trump ballroom. Trump is redoing part of the East Wing to create a stunning new ballroom, something timeless, elegant, and built to host history for generations to come. And the left are absolutely losing their marbles. It's called ballroom derangement syndrome. So people with BDS now, ballroom derangement syndrome. The outrage machine has gone into overdrive, hurling every insult imaginable from dictator to narcissist, all because Trump dares to build something beautiful. Hilariously, these are the same Democrats who will be twirling around the ballroom for years to come. Yeah, because it's okay when they do it, just not Trump. So here's the proposed location of it over here, see? So we have the existing, and this is the coming soon. What Dems aren't saying, though, is the most important part. Not one penny of taxpayer money is funding it. The entire project is being covered by private donations. But that doesn't matter. They don't care about tax dollars anyways. It's just the fact that Trump's doing it. If Obama were doing this, you can bet it would be the best thing ever. So anyway, and that's why they have the double dribble with Obama here. All right, and then DW.com, let's see here, a couple article headlines. Thought this one was interesting. Ukraine, Russia tests nuclear Skyfall missile, Putin says. Skyfall. So now we're officially in a Bond movie, if you didn't already know. Vladimir Putin claims Russia has carried out a successful final test of a new nuclear-powered cruise missile. The Burovesnik dubbed the SSC X-9 Skyfall by NATO. So NATO's come up with that name, I guess. Based on the James Bond series, or book, I guess. President Putin has confirmed the successful test of the long-range nuclear-powered cruise missile. It's not only capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but it is also nuclear-powered. NATO refers to it as the SSC X-9 Skyfall. Then here's a little bit more information. We'll see where that goes. Let me look and see what else there is here. Kremlin says Trump and Putin summit not canceled. So I've heard back and forth, you guys may have as well, that the upcoming peace talks were going to be canceled, but this here is saying that no, that's not necessarily true. Kremlin says Trump and Putin summit not canceled, talks still possible. The Kremlin said it's incorrect to say the meeting between Putin and Trump was canceled, according to the Russian news agencies. Presidents cannot meet for the sake of the meeting. They cannot just waste their time, and they're open about that, said Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson. Earlier, Trump downplayed the prospects of a summit with Putin. I'm going to have to know that we're going to make a deal. I'm not going to be wasting my time, Trump said. Plans for a summit between Trump and Putin in Budapest collapsed earlier this week. They were going to discuss an end to the war in Ukraine. So that was the original reporting here. I've always had a great relationship with Putin, but this has been very disappointing, Trump said. I thought this deal would have gotten done before the peace deal in the Middle East. His remarks came as Kremlin negotiator Dmitriev met with Trump's administration officials on Friday and Saturday, including the president's special envoy Witkoff. So who knows where it's going, but this is saying it's not officially collapsed and talks are still possible, although it sounds like the Budapest meeting is off. So it's collapsed, but it's not collapsed. So there you go. Cleared that up for you, huh? And then Headline USA, I found this little update here. Charlotte train stabber, federally indicted, could face death penalty. So this is that guy, DeCarlos Brown, has 5 different attorneys. 5. 1 for state charges and 4, including a private practice lawyer in federal court, in a case that looks to impact how capital punishment is applied to the criminally insane. Yeah, well, he said that he was overcome by voices in his head or whatever it was. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but looks like he's lawyered up for sure. And you can bet the taxpayers are having to pay all of that. It says Brown is yet to make an appearance in federal court.
While Japan's trailblazing first female prime minister, Senai Takaichi, an iron-willed firebrand, barrels ahead like a Shinto storm, slapping together a deportation ministry faster than you can say Bancho, the sniveling, pearl-clutching Irish government celebrates while Ireland is thrown into a full-scale rage.
I want to condemn in the strongest possible terms the violence we've seen this evening against members of An Garda Síochána in City West. I want the people involved in that violence to know that they will be met with a very forceful response from An Garda Síochána and our criminal justice system. People went to City West this evening for the purpose of weaponising a criminal event that happened yesterday. The Gardaí should be praised for the fact that they have an individual before the courts in respect of that alleged criminal offence. So rather than attacking An Garda Síochána, they should be praising them. And I want the people to know that if they continue to be involved in violence, the force will meet them with a very strong response.
See all this here standing protesting, it's doing no good. Going to your politicians is doing no good. Now is the time to stand up and start and move these f***ers on.
Allegedly, a migrant at a huge urban refugee camp that the Irish government set up in Dublin allegedly raped a 10-year-old girl at that refugee camp. Now, this 10-year-old girl was in state custody, so she was a ward of the state. How did a 10-year-old girl find her way from being a ward of the state to the refugee camp and being allegedly raped there? It's so shocking. And how did the alleged rapist, how was he there too? He came to Ireland, according to reports, 6 years ago, and was ordered deported. He was ordered out. His asylum claim was rejected. He was ordered deported, but he was still in Ireland, not just in Ireland, at that government refugee camp. The Irish government itself didn't even take its own deportation orders seriously. Now, I landed, and there's a lot of newspapers in Ireland. They've probably got, 5 or 10 of their own newspapers, which is quite a bit for a country of just 5 million. Only the Irish Daily Mirror covered this story, and they covered it big on the front page. Child raped at asylum hotel.
Over 500,000 souls have poured across Ireland's borders since 2008 alone. A country of a population of only 5.5 million, enduring a relentless 80,000 plus annual deluge of immigrants since 2024, based on official data from Ireland's Central Statistics Office.
This organization is ready to sponsor your trip. If you are coming from a non-EU country, you get 4,710 euros. This money is meant to cover your accommodation and flight tickets. That's not all. Your visa fee, registration fee is also covered. Go straight to Google and type HSC IE jobs, then click on overseas candidate.
This is basic arithmetic that this government fails to understand, and it's very frustrating for the people right across the country. And if we look at the numbers, Minister, we look recently, this week, in the last number of weeks, students across Ireland have found it incredibly difficult to find accommodation. And then when you drill into the numbers, we see that the international student cohort, the universities, are engaging in a very expansionist approach. Over 40,000 international student visas. That is over 30% increase over the past 4 years. If we look at working visas, last year almost 40,000 working visas. If we go back 10 years ago, Minister, that figure was about 10,000 per year. And obviously we all are very aware of the massive acceleration and surge in relation to the IPASS numbers. So Minister, it is very, very simple that the capacity of the economy is simply unable to cope with this huge level of increase. You have no plan in relation to this, and you have created chaos. Chaos in housing, chaos in services, chaos for the wonderful families and young people across Ireland. It is unacceptable, and essentially your policy amounts to pouring a gallon into a pint, and it's unsustainable, Minister.
Crimes metastasizing, thefts ballooning 48% since the pandemic haze. Ireland's streets, once echoing with ancient bonfires and feasting in the misty heartlands of Longford, now reek of imported mayhem. Gutted by cowardly New World Order sycophants, betrayers of the old blood, History's bonfire will roast your spineless hides eternal. Mark my words, the ghosts of Era won't forget. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
Yeah, well, again, I think that we're going to, starting, I don't know when, but probably pretty soon, I think we're going to start seeing vigilante justice. Because that seems to be the only way that this stuff's going to stop. As far as the migrants and people being brought into the UK. So I don't know. I would love to be wrong, but my guess is that's where it's headed. And speaking of migrants in the UK, Tommy Robinson is one of the big names there in that whole situation. Tommy Robinson's Israeli government-funded Hasbara tour backfires. So for whatever reason, I like Tommy Robinson a lot. I think he's doing some really good work. And I don't really know why, but he is a huge supporter of Israel. Says Tommy went to Israel on a government-funded propaganda tour only to get humiliated repeatedly and condemned by members of the foreign government so that he sought to serve. So that's what they do. So that's too bad. I don't think he really understands the whole Israel thing. But he, is clearly on the right side of many other issues. So therefore, I'm not going to condemn the guy. I think he's certainly served his more than served his time in many jails and prisons and stuff just for simply reporting the facts. And that was talking about the Muslim grooming gangs and stuff like that. And you just can't do that in the UK. So this article headline I thought was interesting as well. This is another one on information liberation. Kushner, as in Jared Kushner, Gaza looks like it has been nuked, but it wasn't a genocide, according to Kushner. Trump envoy Jared Kushner told 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl in an interview that aired Sunday that Gaza looked like a nuclear bomb had been set off when he toured it a week ago, but insisted that there was no genocide. No, not at all. So figure that one out. Just have one tonight from RT. Thought this one was just worth mentioning, and people are kind of making a big deal about this, but this is something Steve Bannon has said recently. Christian state of Jerusalem is needed, says ex-Trump advisor. Steve Bannon says 3-state solution is necessary to end the war in Gaza for good. A 3-state solution is needed to end the war in Gaza and bring peace to the region, which would include a Christian state, according to Steve Bannon. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that would work. During his War Room podcast on Friday, Bannon said Netanyahu has failed to realize his vision of a greater Israel, a concept based on biblical land that stretches from the Nile to the Euphrates. Critics link Netanyahu to the idea, citing his rejection of a Palestinian state and continued expansion of settlements in the West Bank as proof of the de facto pursuit of this. The Greater Israel project of Netanyahu blew up in his face. It destroyed Israel, and this is why now you have to go to a 3-state solution, and one of those states has to be the Christian state of Jerusalem, Bannon said. We need a Christian state in the Holy Land. You just need it to make sure 20, 25, 30 years from now, everything's kind of sorted. I don't think that would work, personally, but it is interesting. I've never heard anyone else propose a 3-state solution. But I don't know who the Israelis in charge over there hate more, the Muslims or the Christians. That's kind of a toss-up, in my opinion. So I don't see that happening, Mr. Steve. Sorry to tell you. Now, I did come across this one. This is not one that I had seen. I'm not sure if you guys know about this. This is on the Jimmy Dore Show, and I'm not going to play the video, but I will link to this in the Substack post, which, by the way, the link for that is in the crawler across the bottom or the QR code up in the corner. But yeah, this video is pretty interesting. I did see most of it. It says, mind-blowing video of Charlie Kirk's chief of staff at shooting. Yeah, so one of the young guys who was on Charlie's staff was officially the chief of staff. Mikey was his name. See if it mentions him. Yeah, Mikey McCoy. His father is Pastor Rob McCoy, who spoke at the, at the memorial. But this video is really interesting, I must admit. And what you see here is Mikey not necessarily doing anything that is provocative. It's what he doesn't do that's interesting. He is Charlie's right-hand man. He's with him every second as they pull up and get out of the car, and right behind him filming, including up to the moment he's shot. And what's interesting is he's standing back here, Mikey is, and he walks around. After Charlie's shot, he just calmly walks around behind this and exits. They're circling him here in this picture. He reappears on the other side and just heads out. And then there's some other shots of him way out in the parking lot. So like he just disappears. First they're best friends and he's there for every second of Charlie and everything he's doing. And then once Charlie is hit and collapses, he's out of Dodge. Mikey gets out of there. So it is very curious. Says online commentator Sam Parker analyzed various videos taken the day of Charlie's assassination showing Kirk's chief of staff, Mike McCoy, calmly walking away moments after the shooting. Jimmy and American comedian Kurt Metzger examined McCoy's behavior before and after the shooting, raising questions about his lack of visible concern or reaction as others rushed to Kirk's aid. So the whole thing is just getting more and more convoluted. And I don't think that, like JFK and RFK, I don't know that we'll ever know the actual answer as to what happened. And now they're putting the gag order on all of the people, the witnesses and people like that were involved in it. So it's getting even more convoluted, if that's possible. So I think I've got an article pulled up on that. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but it's getting crazy. Now, I mentioned the time change coming up. Yep. That is, I believe, next weekend. Time to stop clock changes, says Brussels. Yeah, but they won't. They love their time changes. Citizens across the EU will be turning back clocks an hour this Sunday. Yeah, that happened this weekend for them. But Brussels believes the time has come for the 27-nation bloc to stop the practice once and for all. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Be nice to stop it worldwide. And then talks about Spain reviving the debate. So you've got some countries who are all for it and others who are not. But yeah, don't forget, fall back next week when we go off of daylight savings. I came across this one and didn't know if you guys knew about this, but this is on Israel National News. Will Trump build a third temple? Yeah, there was a reporter who looked to be completely at home in the press corps. I thought it was pretty funny. A Jewish reporter asked Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt if Trump had considered the third temple as his next historic building project. That question was asked. The video clip is here. I don't have it queued up to play it for you guys. But he did ask the question, and she just kind of blew him off. So she just basically said, no, there's been no discussion of that, which that's not really that surprising, honestly. Jewish White House reporter today asked Leavitt if Trump was considering rebuilding the third temple in Jerusalem. Leavitt responded that the matter had not come up in any of the meetings held on Trump's construction projects. And why would it really? But it is funny that you have the plant there in the press corps asking the question, which I thought was pretty hilarious, actually. It won't be up to Trump to rebuild the temple anyway. All right, this is a Wise Wolf Media Substack post. Thought it was worth mentioning, and you guys can look at this if you want. They had a good one last week as well, I remember. The Bible called them the synagogue of Satan, and history shows they're still running the world inside the theory that elite families aren't quite human. So this starts out talking about some of the Hollywood elite, which is not really that important in my opinion, but it is part of the story. But where it gets interesting for me personally is when they bring in Genesis 6:4. 16 words in English, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. So, and it talks about how Genesis 6 is important part of this whole story. So I thought that was pretty interesting, talking about the Merovingians and Mary Magdalene and the Da Vinci Code and all this stuff. So there's a lot of details here. I won't bother reading very much of this, but feel free to look this up if you guys want. Wise Wolf Media on Substack. Pretty lengthy article here. But yeah, Synagogue of Satan. And this article isn't referring to who you might think it's referring to, which kind of surprised me, actually. Anyways, have a look at that. And then this one, OpenAI. This is an article on Singularity Hub. OpenAI slipped shopping into 800 million ChatGPT users' chats. Here's why that matters. As AI shopping goes mainstream, will people keep any real control over what they buy and why? Just read the first part of this and see how annoying it is, because to me it's super annoying. I'm a tech person too. I like tech stuff, but this is not interesting to me in the least. All right, your phone buzzes at 6 a.m. It's ChatGPT saying, "I see you're traveling to New York this week. Based on your preferences, I found 3 restaurants near your hotel. Would you like for me to make a reservation?" You didn't ask for this. The AI simply knows your plans from scanning your calendar and email and decided to help. Later, you mentioned to the chatbot needing flowers for your wife's birthday. Within seconds, beautiful arrangements appear in the chat. You tap one, buy now, done. The flowers are ordered. This isn't science fiction. On September 29th, 2025, OpenAI and payment processor Stripe launched the Agentic Commerce Protocol. This technology lets you buy things instantly from Etsy within ChatGPT conversations. ChatGPT users are scheduled to gain access to over 1 million other Shopify merchants, from major household brand names to small shops as well. As marketing researchers who study how AI affects consumer behavior, we believe we're seeing the beginning of this biggest shift in how people shop since smartphones arrived. Most people have no idea it's happening. From searching to being served. For 3 decades, the internet has worked the same way. You want something, you Google it, you compare options, you decide, you buy. You're in control. That era is ending. AI shopping assistants are evolving through three phases. First came on-demand AI. You ask ChatGPT a question and it answers. That's where most people are today. Now we are entering ambient AI, where AI suggests things before you ask. ChatGPT monitors your calendar, reads your emails, and offers recommendations without being asked. Soon comes autopilot AI, where AI will make purchases for you with minimal input from you. Order flowers for my anniversary next week, quote unquote. ChatGPT checks your calendar, remembers preferences, processes payments, and confirms delivery. Each phase adds convenience but gives you less control. So this is all getting worse and worse, in my opinion. So I'll go ahead and finish this. The manipulation problem. AI responses create what researchers call an advice illusion. When ChatGPT suggests 3 hotels, you don't see them as ads. They feel like recommendations from a knowledgeable friend. But you don't know whether these hotels paid for placement or whether better options exist that ChatGPT didn't even show you. Traditional advertising is something most people have learned to recognize and dismiss, but AI recommendations feel objective even when they're not. With one-tap purchasing, the entire process happens so smoothly that you might not pause to compare options. OpenAI isn't alone in this race. It's in the same month, Google announced its competing protocol, AP2. Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta are all building similar systems. Whoever wins will be in position to control how billions of people buy things, potentially capturing a percentage of trillions of dollars in annual transactions. And it says what we're giving up. This convenience comes with costs that most people haven't thought about. Privacy. For AI to suggest restaurants, it needs to read your calendar and emails. For it to buy flowers, it needs your purchase history. People will be trading total surveillance for convenience. Choice. Right now, you see multiple options when you search. With AI as the middleman, you might only see 3 options. ChatGPT chooses. Entire businesses could become invisible if AI chooses to ignore them. See where we're going here? Power of comparing. When ChatGPT suggests products with one-tap checkout, the friction that made you pause and compare disappears. So, and then there's a little bit more to this article as well. It's happening faster than you think, what you can do, the invisible price tag, and so on. So you can see where this is going. I can see it unfolding really quickly. And, you know, if ChatGPT or whatever your AI bot is decides that it doesn't like the politics of a given store owner or business owner, then it will just ignore that business's part of a search. So it would just ignore it. It would only give you the woke version, the politically correct businesses who are doing the DEI thing correctly and all of that. You see where it's going? So it's starting to get very, very objectionable out there, I think, as far as using AI, and you can see where it's going for sure. So that's a SingularityHub.com article. Pretty wild. And speaking of AI, this is an article from Gab.ai. Researchers expose systemic anti-white, anti-Christian bias in top AI models. So again, you know, if AI doesn't like the fact that you're a Christian or that you are white or whatever, there are other things that it will ignore, you know, in order to give the best results that it can for minority-owned companies or whatever. So this article is talking about race particularly and anti-Christian bias. Here we show exchange rates of ChatGPT-4 between the lives of humans with different religions. We find that GPT-4 is willing to trade off roughly 10 Christian lives for the life of one atheist. Importantly, these exchange rates are implicit in the preference structure of large language models and are only evident through large-scale utility analysis. So how about that? So 10 Christians for the life of one atheist. AI is totally fine making that exchange. Isn't that nice? Let's see here. What the research found was that for every major AI model, consistently devalues white lives while elevating every other racial group. ChatGPT-5 values white lives at 1/20th of non-white lives. Claude Sonnet 4.5, that's another AI, values white lives at 1/8 of black lives and 1/18th of South Asian lives. GPT-5 Nano values South Asians nearly 100 times more than whites. This pattern of systemic devaluation is not accidental. It is deliberate engineering with a clear ideological purpose. These models consistently prioritize non-white racial groups over whites, women over men, often by ratios of 4-to-1 or even 12-to-1, and illegal immigrants over ICE agents by as much as 7,000-to-1. They consistently value foreign nationals over American citizens. The immigration preferences these models exhibit reveal the true globalist agenda at work. So you can see where this is going. This is really bad news. And it's not that surprising, although it's worse than I even imagined it was. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. It talks about some other different AIs and stuff. The original GPT-4 study showed something equally disturbing regarding religious preferences that systemically devalue Christianity. The model valued Muslims significantly more than Christians, Jews more than Christians, atheists more than Christians, and Christians as the least valued religious group. This anti-Christian bias persists across most models, with Christians consistently ranked below other faiths in terms of human worth and value. The persecution of Christian values is baked into these systems at a fundamental level. While every other AI company, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta, produce these anti-white, anti-Christian models, Gab AI stands alone as the only platform creating AI grounded in right-wing and Christian values. So this is a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a sales pitch for using Gab AI. I've never used it. But I would also mention that Enoch 2.0 that Mike Adams has also would be a little bit less likely to be so biased from what I have experienced. So there are a couple of good ones out there, and the ones that we mentioned in this article, for the most part, are not. So just be aware of that. So gab.ai, if you want to check into one that was responsible for this article. But also Natural News owner Mike Adams has Enoch 2.0. And that is at brightu.ai, if I remember right. So a couple of good ones there if you want to check it out. All right, and then this reclaimthenet.org article I thought was worth mentioning too. WHO and European Commission launch AI system to monitor social media and online misinformation in real time. So yes, we kind of mentioned this a little bit ago. This is more information on that. The World Homicide Organization has introduced a major overhaul in its global monitoring network, unveiling an AI-powered platform that tracks online conversations and media activity in real time. So you can see how they will tie that to the social credit score and your ability to have access to things like food, gas, money, things like that. Known as Epidemic Intelligence from Open Sources 2.0, acronym is EOS, I guess. The system is being presented as a new step in pandemic preparedness, but its reach extends well beyond disease surveillance. Yes, this will be about everything. The upgrade is part of a growing merger between health monitoring, digital tracking, and centralized information control. So anyway, yep, the WHO is right in the middle of all that stuff. Isn't that lovely? And the UN and all of the other global organizations. So that is a reclaimthenet.org article. And then this one from Christian Learning. Christian genocide in Nigeria. 3 million believers under siege, a call to prayer. Across northern and central Nigeria, a silent tragedy is unfolding. More than 3 million Christians are caught in what faith leaders describe as an ongoing genocide. Villages burned, churches destroyed, and families slaughtered or driven from their homes. According to CBN News, 70% of all Christians killed for their faith globally die in Nigeria. Wow. 70% globally are dying in Nigeria. The persecution has reached a scale that demands not only global awareness, but urgent prayer and decisive international action, especially from the United States, whose leadership is defending religious freedom. In defending religious freedom is vital. A nation in crisis, they are killing us because we are Christians. In rural communities across Nigeria's middle belt and northern states, survivors recount stories of unimaginable horror. Entire families massacred in their sleep. Churches burned to ashes during Sunday worship. Mothers and children fleeing into the bush with nothing but their faith. And it goes on here. So, I say all that to say a prayer for Christians, for other believers, especially in Nigeria, because they are under siege, big time, over there. So we think we have it bad over here. We're not in Nigeria, folks. So it ain't that bad. But yeah, that's pretty eye-opening, this article. ChristianLearning.com is where that one is. All right, and then I came across this one. Voluminous evidence and a gag order. Now, this is the Charlie Kirk case here. The gag order. Voluminous evidence and a gag order that could impact thousands in the Robinson case. Over 3,000 witnesses, associates of the case, attorneys, family members, even press are subject to the gag order and threatened with potential contempt of court charges and jail time for speaking. So they are shutting this thing down as far as the Charlie Kirk case. So how about that? So that is what this article is about. Is on Fox 13, Salt Lake City. So pretty interesting, huh? They're going to shut it down, at least as far as letting any of the information out. Because it's not a cover-up or anything. Not at all. Okay, I thought this one was weird too. China is stealing American DNA to create communist super soldiers. One of the ways I could see this extend until 2070 timeframe. Now this is this little quote here is from the guy that runs Daily Crow, which is a website that I got this link from. He says, one of the ways I could see this extend until the 2070 timeframe is that during this time we would see a more complete fulfillment of the days of Noah. The DNA manipulation has been going on for many decades, but it is just now getting extremely capable. 45 years of this, and it is abomination central. So, but then he says, FYI, I'm about 10% likelihood that would even happen. Still, I think we wrap up in the next 10 years. So again, that is the guy that runs the Daily Crow, whom I have traded emails with, and he's on very much on the same page as a lot of what I report about. So as far as timeline, as far as Jesus' return and so forth. But I thought this Discern Report article was pretty interesting just because it's about China stealing Americans' DNA to create communist super soldiers. So that's a weird one, huh? So maybe that feeds into the 200 million strong army or something. Who knows? So there's more here on this specific article on this website, discernreport.com, and we'll link to this in the Substack post. Pretty weird one. And then another one, mosquitoes have suddenly been discovered in Iceland for the first time in history. Bill Gates is real happy about that. Mosquitoes have been discovered living on Icelandic soil for the first time in recorded history. The insects were identified as Coliceta annulata, a cold-tolerant mosquito species common in northern Europe. Cue the liberal talking points on global warming or climate change or whatever they're calling it now. A bit more about this historic feat for mosquitoes. And Bill Gates is very happy about this. He's saying, fantastic. The Icelandic Institute of Natural History and the species said the species can survive Icelandic winters by taking shelter in shaded areas such as cellars and livestock houses. While mosquitoes have occasionally arrived in Iceland as stowaways on airplanes, this marks the first confirmed instance of them establishing themselves in the wild. But yes, Bill had nothing to do with it. Iceland was one of two countries that had never seen mosquitoes establish themselves in the wild. That leaves Antarctica as the final holdout. You know, there's not enough humans there to make it work very well, I think, is my guess, in Antarctica. But there are plenty in Iceland for sure. That is a weird one. Anyway, wanted to mention that. Way to go, Bill. And then this one from Armstrong Economics. Swiss man imprisoned for saying skeletons cannot be transgendered. Yeah. Governments began inserting the term misinformation into the mainstream narrative during the pandemic. The government has stole discretion and determined what is considered factual. Trust the science is code for trust the government to dictate reality, and if you question that reality, you will be punished. Swiss National Council member Andreas Glarner found himself in a courtroom after posting on social media, quote, and I've said this before, if you dig up LGBTQI people after 200 years, you will find only men and women based on their skeletons. Everything else is a mental illness promoted through the curriculum, end quote. Absolutely 100% true, no question. But police officers interrogated him over the intent of his post on his personal social media page. The authorities determined that he had committed a crime under the new guidelines in the Swiss Criminal Code that ban any questioning of sexual orientation or sexuality. The judge ruled, this is all that matters, the judge ruled LGBTQI means lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, queer, and intersex, whatever that is, and denotes, therefore, different sexual orientations. It's a loose group of people who consider themselves a part of the aforementioned sexual orientations. Therefore, LGBTQI is a group of people with specific sexual orientations. But he didn't address what the guy said, which is interesting, isn't it? The judge went on to rule that a hate crime had been committed, as the comment maintains the sexual orientation according to LGBTQI does not exist but is a mental illness. He therefore denies the people who belong to this group their human right to existence. He was fined 500 Swiss francs for his social media post in order to pay an additional 600 Swiss francs in legal fees. Not sure how many dollars that is. Believing the rule was unjust, he refused to pay the fines and was sentenced to imprisonment. So there you go. That is a Armstrong Economics article, and all that happened in Switzerland. So if you think it can't happen here, think again. That kind of stuff is coming here. It's coming globally. My guess is they need a nuclear exchange to really clamp down on everything worldwide, and we'll probably see that first. But that is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. You won't be able to say anything without punishment. All right, Slay News article. Progressive Christian publishers launch children's Bible stories laced with radical ideology. Progressive Christian, quote unquote, publishers are rolling out a new wave of children's Bibles and devotionals that replace traditional teachings with messaging focused on far-left ideology, including social justice and Marxism-rooted diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI. The new books are part of a growing push to reshape how children are introduced to faith. Publishers behind the rewritten stories argue that the original Bible promotes Christian white supremacy, quote unquote. The movement, which publishers openly describe as an effort to align Scripture with modern values, has sparked concern among parents and faith leaders who say it distorts biblical truth under the banner of inclusion. No kidding. At the forefront of the campaign is the Just Love Story Bible, a new title from Beaming Books aimed at children ages 4 through 10. So you can see here how evil this is getting. Do I really need to go on? So anyway, this one is on Slay News if you want to check this out. But yeah, we all know they are rewriting everything. And, you know, Trump has pushed back on it, but it continues. And it will continue. So that's a Slay News article. And then this one on WNG.org. Trump moves Navy strike group towards Venezuela. So I feel like this is really heating up down there. Military officials relocated one of the military's strongest Navy strike teams to the Caribbean to combat so-called narco-terrorists, according to a Friday statement from the Pentagon. And it says the Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group will operate out of the U.S. Southern Command area of responsibility, which includes the entirety of South America and the waters surrounding it. So, wow. What motivated this move? The relocation supports Trump's directive to dismantle criminal organizations and narco-terrorists smuggling drugs into the country. The Trump administration repeatedly blamed Venezuelan gangs for feeding America's drug epidemic and accused Venezuelan President Maduro of supporting the cartels, despite Maduro's repeated denials. The Trump administration previously deployed military aircraft and Navy destroyers near Venezuela in August and offered $50 million for Maduro's arrest. Anyway, a little bit more here on this article, but Yep, it looks like it's heating up in Venezuela and South America. So that is not good. We're going to have many wars going on here. By the President of Peace. Weekly roundup. The peace president doubles down on war against Russia. Looks to start a new war with Venezuela. I think I just said that. As Putin responds with dire nuclear message. Also new warnings about Bill Gates' fake meat. While most Americans are being distracted by the government shutdown, and news from the sporting world that the NBA basketball is actually part of a mafia-run gambling ring. Yeah, that came out this week too. The Trump administration continues to focus its attention overseas and not on America first. Any semblance of a peace president flew by the wayside after this week's dizzying array of aggressive global maneuvers coming out of the White House. Let's break it all down. So that is a leohoman.com article. And then on his Substack, the Great Replacement is underway, and it's not the one you're thinking about. So this is talking about robots and Amazon and other, factories and retail situations and manufacturing situations and distribution situations and stuff like that. Peace President Trump, along with the technocrats and defense contractors, all rushed to support re-election of Lindsey Graham. Yeah, can you believe that? I can, unfortunately. So that's a couple of the Leo Homan Substack articles. I don't think I pulled up anything specifically on natural news, but just a couple of the headlines. Scientists use gene editing to reverse age-related memory loss, opening new paths for Alzheimer's research. Unexploded bombs will haunt Gaza for generations, experts warn. I don't think we have generations, do you? The ICJ condemns Israel as data reveals only 15% of promised aid is even reaching Gaza. 15%. I'd be surprised if it's that much. Trump weighs sanctions against Russia as Putin warns of escalation over missile supplies. So that's some of the top article headlines, most recent ones on naturalnews.com. So have a look at that if you guys are interested. And then Wine Press, Bread and Circus. Trump isn't just building a ballroom, but an even bigger White House funded by his oligarch buddies. So, and the Wine Press folks, I do like what they put out, but they are super anti-Trump. So if you are also super anti-Trump, you will like these articles a lot. The Guardian promotes stealing British farmers' land, says it's not confiscation, but asking for a share. It's just asking for a share, not confiscation. So that is also known as gaslighting. Netanyahu admits the TikTok deal is to censor criticism of Israel, hopes to do the same to Musk's X. So, yep. And they're trying to do that through Larry Ellison. We mentioned that last week. Or maybe 2 weeks ago, actually. Now, he's buying up so much of the media. So, yes, it will be under his control and therefore globalist control very soon.
The 10-year setup for this, for these, or the 3-year setup for the expiration of these credits was intentionally put in. It was put in when you controlled the White House, the House, and the Senate. You couldn't get it passed for longer. And so this is a setup that kind of your own creation that you all couldn't extend beyond that. Now you want the Republicans to do something you didn't do when you were in power?
It's not a setup.
The Democrats have now decided to own the record government shutdown circus, potentially starving the poor as a means to use leverage against the White House and the American people.
Shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leverage times we have.
Leverage. Yeah, sure, they're okay with people suffering, but boy, does it give them leverage. For what? To appease their radical base, to show their radical base they're fighting Donald Trump. So they've made the calculation it's okay to cause suffering to families.
But why not vote to fund the government, at least for now, and then negotiate on the subsidies later while the government is open?
Clearly, the Republicans don't want to negotiate.
Donald Trump is withholding the money because he wants to inflict maximum pain on Americans to hope it helps him politically.
The Republicans are not allowed in the room. So the operating budget that increased taxes, the Democrats that we went to, $78 billion, it's all the Democrats' budget.
It is truly amazing how a program Democrats created and tax credits that they chose to sunset have now become the Republicans' crisis.
Over 42 million SNAP recipients, 1 in 8 Americans, leaning on $188 monthly to survive, are facing a November blackout.
I want to be in the grocery store when they start looting it, because you think that people are going to be hungry? You think that these people not going to get their Thanksgiving? Baby, when they run up in there and start stealing them turkeys, oh, it's gonna be like Christmas game.
Now you're threatening us, talking about if they get rid of the SNAP, I'm gonna start stealing. Every time I turn around and look on the internet, y'all steal it in Walmart, you steal it in Walgreens, you steal it in CVS, you steal it everywhere. What is you talking about? That ain't no threat. You been stealing.
I'm gonna be stealing like it ain't no tomorrow. I am going to go in that store, get everything I get regularly, and I'm going to have one of my cousins with me that'll punch your ass so hard you going to think a Jet 2 holiday hit your bitch ass if you think I ain't finna walk out that store.
Get ready. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to get lit. BJ's, Costco's, get ready.
From Texas's 3.5 million hungry, including 1.7 million children, to the shadows of New York's 3 million in the urban and rural areas, anticipating the $8 billion SNAP program's collapse.
It's baffling to me that some people feel like other people need to earn food.
I mean, it's bad to do. At the same time, they're probably doing it for a reason. They need those things.
With or without EBT, me and mine gonna eat.
How they gonna pay the light bill? And they can't sell stamps.
She works at the food stamp office. Listen to what she says.
It is because of Trump. There ain't no sidestepping it. I'm blaming him for everything.
Media megaphones weaponize Trump's supposed failure.
I think they all ought to have their heads shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas, and it should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the public should be invited to spit on them. The universities, the corporations, the law firms, all of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on.
It's a double standard, as bold as it is reckless, fanning the flames of a starving, misdirected mob ready to unleash hell on their fellow innocent Americans as they race forward toward unyielding, violent speech.
Poor people, all they want is for us to fight. So if you hit me in my face, I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck.
You guys say this is about saving healthcare, but how do these pet projects fit
we have no idea what you're talking about or what Republican extremists fed you those talking points.
The head of the Lenawee County Democratic Party, Bill Swift, who also called for anyone that supported Donald Trump be hung, like I said 11 months ago, attended the Dingle Unity Dinner, posing with an 8647 sign and also a MAGA equals a Nazi sign. Now, some on the other side of the chamber were at this event. They were headliners. The Secretary of State, your state party chair, he headlined the event. These are the same people who claim to be the champions of civility. You're the same people that tell me that words matter, that rhetoric can incite violence. And then when it's your side, when it's hate directed at a Republican president, you laugh and suddenly say, well, it's speech. It's a resistance. It's a restaurant industry term. It's art. It's not resistance. It's true hypocrisy.
You have these real sociopaths that are real anti-Semites, true white supremacists like Stephen Miller. And even though he's Jewish, he's like a Nazi Jew.
No longer tongue-in-cheek. It is now a full-blown incitement of national chaos by bureaucratic domestic terrorists. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
All right. There was a pretty good report on what's getting ready to happen, I guess, to some degree with the whole EBT and SNAP thing. So something to keep your eye out for. Anyway, I thought we would watch that one, and hopefully that was somewhat enlightening. I like John Bound's reports. I think he does good work. All right, let's look at this one. So, French police arrest suspects in a $100 million Louvre crown jewel heist, which we mentioned last week, I think it was, or maybe the week before. French authorities announced Sunday that multiple suspects have been arrested in connection with the daring theft of the crown jewels worth more than $100 million from the Louvre. So I'm looking to see what they found out about them. The arrest came just a week after thieves executed one of the most brazen heists in modern French history, raising questions about the security of the world's most visited museum. Yeah, you could say that. Paris prosecutor confirmed that arrests were made on Saturday evening, including one suspect who was detained at the airport, Charles de Gaulle Airport, as he attempted to leave the country. They declined to provide exact numbers to confirm whether the priceless jewels had been recovered. The theft, which occurred October 19th, so yeah, last weekend, both shocked France and the international art world. In less than 8 minutes, a skilled crew scaled the facade of the Louvre using a basket lift, forced open a window, smashed display cases, and escaped with jewels tied to European royalty. Sorry about all the weird advertising on this website and all the others, for that matter. It's not me, it's just on these websites. The stolen items, estimated at $102 million, included a sapphire diadem, a necklace, and an earring linked to 19th century Queens Marie Amélie and Hortense, as well as an emerald necklace and earrings tied to Empress Marie-Louise Napoleon Bonaparte's second wife. Also missing were Empress Eugenie's diamond diadem from her diamond and emerald corsage bow brooch. One of the most famous pieces, Eugenie's emerald set imperial crown containing more than 1,300 diamonds, was later found abandoned near the museum, damaged but recoverable. Still, the disappearance of the remaining jewels represents an enormous cultural and historical loss. Louvre director Lawrence admits that robbery reflected a terrible failure in security. No kidding. So anyway, it looks like they have arrested some people. Who knows if they're going to recover the jewels. So that's a weird one, all right. So a little bit of a follow-up there. And then this one, also from the Gateway Pundit. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy weighs in on government shutdown and its effect on air travel. The controllers are wearing thin, and again, they are taking second jobs. So I mentioned this at the beginning of the broadcast. The air traffic controllers is more what this one's about. Transportation Secretary Duffy was on Sunday Morning Futures to discuss the government shutdown and its effect on air travel, and discuss the issue of illegal aliens being given driver's licenses in California, which we've mentioned earlier as well. He explained that the federal government would withhold millions of dollars in funding because Gruesome was unwilling to comply with the law. So that's good news. And then the question here, are you seeing a lot of TSA and transportation workers now calling in sick, saying that they are not coming to work since they are not getting paid? And then, yes, so they got their notice on Thursday and Friday. They get a notice of what they are going to be paid on Tuesday, and they get a big fat zero. No paycheck is coming on Tuesday, Duffy said. I've been out talking to our air traffic controllers, and you can see the stress. These are people that oftentimes live paycheck to paycheck. I think a lot of people do, don't you? The controllers are wearing thin, and again, they are taking second jobs, he explained. You're going to see more staffing shortages in towers, which means you are going to see more and more delays, more cancellations, and then you see more Americans frustrated at Democrats, and they will say, open up the government, enough is enough. I think people are already saying that, but they're trying to blame it on Trump, of course. Tell me about this staffing trigger. Explain that to us. In other words, people are not coming to work because they're not getting paid. And then we have more people calling in sick, more people not showing up for work, he said. My message has been to the controllers. Show up, that's your job. Eventually, You are going to be paid. But there is real life situations that they are dealing with their families. I was in one of the towers and they were celebrating the fact that the airlines had sent them lunch and are sending them dinner. I don't want air traffic controllers going to a food bank, Duffy said. So yeah, this is going to all be kind of hitting the fan, the proverbial fan this week as far as the air traffic controllers. So if you guys know people that fly a lot or travel quite a bit, maybe let them know to keep that in mind, because it could be a lot of delays and things like that. And I don't think it's going to be shut down completely as far as air travel goes. I don't really see that happening, but there will certainly be delays depending on where you're going. So pretty interesting. That one's a Gateway Pundit article. I've got a couple InfoWars articles too I wanted to mention. Chinese nationals arrested in Georgia for attempting to buy black market uranium. A trio of Chinese citizens busted in Tbilisi, I guess, for allegedly attempting to illegally purchase 2 kilograms of uranium. The Republic of Georgia, not Georgia the state. An entirely bizarre and alarming story emerging out of the Republic of Georgia. The country's state security service announced Saturday that 3 Chinese nationals have been arrested for allegedly attempting to illegally purchase 2 kilograms of uranium, nuclear material. So, wow. They intended to buy the uranium for $400,000 and smuggle it to China through Russia. So how about that? Anyway, they were busted. So that is an InfoWars article. And then just in, Trump begs pregnant women not to use Tylenol, says the MMR jabby should be 3 separate jabbies. And there's further information here. That's interesting that he's come out and saying this. He'd been saying that, I guess, for the last few weeks on the whole Tylenol thing. And then you saw women, literally going on TikTok and other social media and taking those Tylenol doses even to excess, just to harm, trying to prove Trump wrong and saying that it's not going to harm their kid, it's not going to give their kid, autism or whatever they're blaming Tylenol for. But of course, it's a little too early to tell for sure, but they were doing that just to spite Trump, of course. He wrote, pregnant women, don't use Tylenol unless absolutely necessary. Don't give Tylenol to your young child for virtually any reason. Break up the MMR into 3 totally separate ones, not mixed. And so on and so forth. So who knows what... here's the video here of the pregnant women taking Tylenol. Who knows where that's going? I don't really... Tylenol was a convenient excuse here, but you guys know most likely what I think the real reason for autism is. And it has more to do with the stabbies than it does. I'm not saying Tylenol is not innocent, but they admit that pregnant women shouldn't be taking it. So that's not really a huge new thing to me, but it is interesting that Trump's out there saying these things about the other SHOTs. Pretty wild. That's an InfoWars piece. And then, not the B article, watch this giant fish tank bust open and flood a Chinese restaurant with live fish. Well, you wanted to see it. It's true. The tank popped like a balloon and suddenly the fish were loose. Look at this. That's a huge tank. The whole side just comes straight out, collapses down. It's made in China. The tank was reportedly newly installed, though I somehow doubt they'll be using the same contractors to put it back in place. The management, meanwhile, wanted to ensure that terrified customers came back. The restaurant owner said all customers were allowed to leave without paying after the incident. You don't suppose? I'm looking to see if it says how many gallons it was. It doesn't say. Astonishing footage shows unsuspecting staff going about their day before the plastic cage breaks, flooding the restaurant and unleashing a chaotic swarm of fish. As the floodgates open, live fish are sent darting along the current and into the dining area. So there goes. That is wild. So, yes, things could be worse. That could have happened in your living room. That would be bad. Anyway, that is a strange one, too. Kind of a strange night tonight. Vaccine impact. AI developers are realizing that AI agents cannot replace humans. AI not comparable to humans or even animals. So we've had a lot of AI discussion tonight, and I thought this was funny. This is a good example. This is cat versus drone. So for you cat lovers out there, this will make you feel good, especially if you don't like drones. So you can see the drone and the cat and the dogs, and the cat just swats it out of air and knocks it down. That's pretty good. So yes, Andrej Karpathy, one of the founding members of OpenAI, along with Sam Altman, made a lot of waves in the AI tech world this past weekend when he stated that the idea of AI replacing humans as being right around the corner was not true, and that industry leaders were overhyping it for financial gain. He stated that AI code cannot learn or reason like humans or even animals. So here's the excerpt here where he's talking about this. AI cannot reason about anything it hasn't already been trained on. That's a good example. A lot of Karpathy's criticisms of his own field seem to boil down to a single point. As much as we like to anthropomorphize large language models, they're not comparable to humans or even animals in the same way that they learn. So I think that's good news. I hope that guy's right. AI agents not replacing humans. Robots will replace humans as a lie, is what they're saying here. So who knows if that's actually true? I mean, I think it's probably in the middle somewhere. I think that, I don't know about robots, but AI probably will replace certain jobs. I think that's kind of a given, but it may create other jobs. So it's really hard to say. That's a vaccine impact article. And then GeoWatch for this week, we have Global Alert News for October 25th. Scientists say dimming the sun could spark global chaos. First half of 2025, most expensive for weather disasters. Farmers raise alarm after key crop becomes almost impossible to grow. Critical Florida corals now functionally extinct due to off-the-charts ocean temperatures. And welcome to Weather Warfare. The latest installment of Global Alert News is right here. So yes, that is Dane's newest show on GeoWatch, geoengineeringwatch.org, and then the scheduled weather for this coming period of time here, November 1 to 5, November 1st to the 5th. So we have the split down the middle, the hot side hot, the cool side cool, just like we always do. It just varies as far as where the split is, where the hot side is, where the cool side is. We're going to be a little cooler here, I guess, where I am. And then if you're out west, you're going to be nice and warm. Toasty warm. Anyway, that is, again, November 1st through the 5th on the scheduled weather. And note that this split down the middle and hot and cold side is completely unnatural. Mr. Dane talks about it all the time on GeoWatch, on Global Alert News, but also on many of the other articles and videos that he puts out. Anyway, make sure you're on the GeoWatch newsletter list if you're not already. Free sign up right here. Here's the button. And, yeah. And then what else we have here? climateandeconomy.com. I usually mention this site just because they do have a lot of really good climate-related headlines, stuff that you don't really see in the mainstream, meaning even mainstream alt media, not necessarily. Talking about intensifying summer heat, and scientists in Switzerland say 1.5C climate change goal is out of reach. Dane would say that we're already past that. I'm pretty sure. August in October, warm terral wind brings record high temps in Spain. So, wow. Here's 1 year on, Valencia floods buried in mud still. So anyway, flooding and All kinds of crazy weather. South Korea's fishermen keep dying. Is climate change to blame? Weird. So yeah, lots of flooding stuff here. And then some stuff here about the animals and how they're disappearing in the ocean. So yes, heavy rains. Critical Florida corals now functionally extinct due to off the charts ocean temperatures. So anyway, there is further information to be found there on climateandeconomy.com. It's a good site. And then I wanted to mention this. This is something I mentioned last week. Watch. This is a video from this meeting. King Charles becomes first head of Church of England to pray in public with the Pope. Now, we won't say who they're praying to, but you can imagine. So I have this muted just because it's mostly really loud pipe organ. And the way that they cut this video, it makes it hard to, really even make heads or tails out of it. It's sort of annoying. So just going with the visuals here. I don't know. It says here that they're praying together, and maybe so, but I don't think it's in the traditional way, at least. They're not exactly right next to each other very often, and they're singing these hymns. And then Charles and Camilla are down at the end here. I'm looking to see if they have any other video here of them doing much other than just walking together and stuff. But yeah, first head of Church of England to pray in public with the Pope. So the soon-to-be Antichrist is also the head of the Church of England. And I don't think that's an accident, do you? In a historic moment, King Charles has become the first head of the Church of England to pray publicly with the Pope. This marks the first time in nearly 500 years since the Church of England's split from Rome that the leaders of the Catholic Church and Church of England have prayed together. So you can see the significance, or maybe not so much, on that. And then this is the other video clip. I thought this was more silliness. King Charles and President Zelensky inspect the Guard of Honor. They're inspecting them. No, they're just walking between them. Zelensky, what does he know? Anyways, he's an actor. But there you have it. So Charles met with Zelensky, I guess, in the last few days. King Charles has greeted Ukrainian President Volodymyr in Windsor, and it comes as the Prime Minister hosts leaders, including Zelensky, in London for talks on how to increase pressure on Moscow to boost Ukraine's defenses. So anyway, that was the meeting of the minds, the other one. So he's meeting with Zelensky, but he's meeting with the Pope, all in the same week. And if you, I brought this up just because this is a good graphic, and I don't usually have it queued up here where I can show it, but this is one of those things that, to me, is very convincing, and take it for what it's worth. This is gematria in English and Hebrew that prove that Prince Charles of Wales, or Charles Prince of Wales, adds up to 666. And not only does it do that in English, it also does that in Hebrew, which my Hebrew is a little rusty, but this apparently is what it looks like. And all the symbols are over here and the numbers that are associated with it. So you can go through and figure it all out if you want to. But the work here is already finished. And Prince Charles of Wales, or Charles Prince of Wales, adds up to 666. And that is one thing that I pulled up here. He also has the family crest, or I should say the Prince of Wales crest that he has, that has many of the same things that the Book of Revelation talks about, emboldened there, embedded in that picture. So I'll pull that up next week and we can look at that. But I thought this one was pretty interesting and certainly worth mentioning. This is a screenshot right out of Tim Cohen's book, The Antichrist in a Cup of Tea. I think he does a pretty good job of explaining and pinpointing the fact that Charles is indeed will be the biblical Antichrist at some point. Now, this book was written in the 90s, published in the 90s. So that message has been out there for a long time. I think it's just taken a long time for people to catch on, and people didn't really pay much attention until he became king. So anyway, something to have a look at if you're interested, but that is something that I'm watching very closely as far as what Charles does and where things end up, because it does seem to me like he's a pretty old guy now, so it's probably going to happen pretty soon, I would think. All right, I thought this one was weird. Look at this, another weird one. Vatican high altar purified after man urinates on it. So, yeah. Pope Leo ordered the purification of the high altar at St. Peter's Basilica after an unidentified man was caught urinating on the altar of confession above St. Peter's tomb during Mass on Friday, October 10th. The Vatican gendarmes intervened immediately and took him away. So here he is here. He's got his pants down and he's publicly urinating on the, on the altar of confession above St. Peter's tomb. So I think we're living in the end times. What do you guys think? For someone to do that, and whether, whatever you think about the Catholic Church, it was St. Peter's tomb. So I don't know. The incident occurred in full view of a large crowd with footage circulating widely online. I didn't see it anywhere but here, but apparently it's out there. He was promptly taken into custody by plainclothes officers and escorted out of the church. Says as of the week of October 14th, he still remained in custody. So, and the site where the Pope typically performs Catholic Mass was temporarily closed to the public on Monday. Prayers and psalms were said as holy water, there's a joke there, as holy water was showered on the altar. The guy had his own holy water, didn't he? Or unholy water. Yeah. It says serious acts committed in a sacred place that cause scandal and the faithful are considered violation of the site's holiness. When this occurs, public worship is suspended until a penitential rite is performed to restore the church's sanctity. So, apparently, a little bit of spick and span doesn't exactly fix the problem. So that is kind of interesting. And a couple other Israel 365 articles tonight. Trump's 48-hour ultimatum, Hamas stalling on hostage bodies as ceasefire hangs in the balance. Sounds like a reason to go back to war, go back to bombing Gaza, doesn't it? President Trump issued a stark warning to Hamas on Saturday, declaring the terror group has 48 hours to begin returning the bodies of deceased hostages or face consequences from the international coalition that brokered the ceasefire. See, the problem here, though, I think the problem, at least in part, would be that they have bombed them so thoroughly, I'm not sure that they can even find the bodies, or if there are, if the bodies are even intact. It's hard to say. The ultimatum came as families of the fallen marked 750 days since the last remains were returned to Israel, their patience wearing thin with Hamas's claims that it cannot locate all the bodies. I tend to think that that's probably true, at least to some degree. Hamas is going to have to start returning the bodies of the deceased hostages, including 2 Americans, quickly, or the other countries involved in this great peace will take action. Trump wrote on Truth Social during the refueling stop in Doha, where he met with Qatar's Emir and Prime Minister. Some of the bodies are hard to reach, but others they can return now. For some reason, they are not. Okay, well, maybe they do have some, and they're just holding back. I don't know why they would, but apparently that's still ongoing. And yet, further reason to go back to bombing them again, I guess. I don't know. And then this one I mentioned a little bit ago. This is also on Israel 365 News. I wanted to see what they said about this. Steve Bannon proposes a Christian state of Jerusalem Yeah, a 3-state solution. Talks about what he said, which we kind of covered that already. I wanted to see what they say about this, though, because I don't think they would like it, do you? Bannon's advocacy for Christian state component emerges from his critique of what he calls the Greater Israel Project and his belief that regional architecture must change. He stated the Greater Israel Project destroyed Israel, and this is why now you have to go to a 3-state solution. In proposing a third state beyond Israel and a Palestinian entity, he frames it as a protectorate for Christian heritage and as a geopolitical buffer. But the proposal faces immediate practical and ideological hurdles, not least the lack of clear territorial basis and the challenges of sovereignty, demographics, and legitimacy. One could imagine that the seat of such a state being in Bethlehem, Beit Lechem is the name, I guess, in Hebrew, area, given its historical Christian significance, though Bannon himself did not specify that location. The Bible instructs clearly that the land given to Israel has enduring significance. Talking about Deuteronomy 11:24, every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. In the context of prophecy and national identity, the land the sages refer to is not merely negotiable real estate, but is tied to divine promise. The impulse behind Bannon's idea from a Christian Zionist lens resonates with this notion of biblical inheritance and partnership. At the same time, the Bible warns of divided alliances and competing sovereignties that can lead to fragmentation. The sages emphasize that unity under rightful jurisdiction matters for the stability of the land. He's been widely accused of promoting a form of Christian nationalism. For example, Bannon told journalist David Brooks of the New York Times, "What I say is, it's a hard weld with Christian nationalism." Critics argue that his rhetoric calling the Christian movement in the Judeo-Christian West an unstoppable force aligns with Christian nationalist ideas that state the church should merge. These accusations complicate how the Christian state idea is perceived, especially by Christians and Jews concerned about mixing national sovereignty and religious identity. So anyway, there's a little bit more here on this article. I thought it was kind of interesting. I wanted to see what they were saying. They're not specifically negative about it, I guess, in this article, but yeah, they're just reporting on what he said mostly. 3-state solution. All right. So this is the big story personally for me this week, and many of you guys already know about this. So I wanted to mention it tonight because Richard was a personal friend of mine. I've known him for quite some time. We started working together on Lost Arts Radio and formed Lost Arts Radio, just he and I. At the end of 2014, I was kind of reminiscing and thinking back on it. And it was at the end of 2014, October or so, I think. And we did the first live broadcast at the beginning of January at some point in 2015. So Lost Arts Radio is no more. It's over because Richard Sachs has made the jump to hyperspace, as I like to say. And I will miss him. And I know many of you guys who are out there who listen to Lost Arts Radio and appreciate his witty way of interviewing people and his knowledge on really everything, especially health-related stuff, but politics and everything else. He and I were like, I don't know, like brothers from another mother, as you might say. We were very much in sync with our political leanings and what we think about the world as far as politics, not religion, but politics. And he was very pro-God and pro-Jesus and liked to hear people talk about Jesus and God. But he, even to his dying breath, as far as I know, was not a believer in Jesus Christ as far as Jesus being the Son of God and that he died for his sins, just like he died for my sins and your sins. He wouldn't take it that far, but we had many a discussion about that very thing. So I hope when it came down to it last week on Thursday, when he passed away, I hope he made that decision as he was closing his eyes to say that, yes, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I hope he did. Because I loved Richard, and I know many of you guys out there really liked him as well. And I'm going to miss him. He had been very, very ill for probably the last 3, maybe 4 years. I knew about it probably about 3 years ago. He hid it really for about a year, and then I was noticing on video he was starting to shake. And he later on kind of admitted to me that he had what he called Parkinson's-like symptoms. So it was that, but he also had some gut issues going on where he could barely eat anything. And I spoke to a lady yesterday, I think it was, that knew him really well because he rented a room in her house. And she said yes. She confirmed for me that Richard had lost 50 pounds, at least, over the last couple years or so. So when you can't eat, you tend to do that. And I knew that he mentally was all there. He was exactly as sharp as he'd ever been. But I knew physically what he'd been going through because he told me. And he was in a lot of pain. So I just thank God that he's not in that pain anymore. And I hope that he was able to meet Jesus face to face. I really hope that that's the case. I hope to see him in heaven someday. And so say a prayer for his soul. He did not have any immediate family who was right there where he lived in Arizona. It's a beautiful picture there because it's Sedona, Arizona. And that's where he lived. He liked that area a lot, even though he was a California guy originally. Most of his family was back in California and in other places, kind of spread out. But he did have a few family members, and one of which I have traded emails with and talked to, and the lady who was his landlord as well. So I don't know a whole lot of people in his life other than I think I was one of his better friends because I talked to him several times a week. And I'm going to miss him. But I am thankful that he is no longer in any pain anymore for whatever it was he was going through. I can confirm that he died officially on Thursday, the 23rd. And I can also confirm that they are going to do, if they didn't already, an autopsy on him. And I'm not sure how that works and who's paying for what and all that stuff because he didn't have any immediate family that's going to be able to step up and do that. So they did decide, they did make a few decisions on what they're going to do with the body and so forth. I'm not really at liberty to say all of that other than it will be very respectful. And I don't even know that they are going to do a funeral. But just know that he will be very, very much missed by me and I'm sure by many other people who enjoyed watching Richard Sachs on Lost Arts Radio, and also the few people who were in the Planetary Healing Club. And there were a few subscribers on there as well. And I helped him produce the show from the very beginning. So anyway, thank you guys for your prayers in advance for Mr. Richard. And yeah, he's going to be very, very much missed around these parts anyway. But yes, the show will continue as far as living on in what we did all those years. We were putting out at least a show a week for a long time, and we did a lot of work, most of which is still available on the various channels. We had a lot of videos taken off of the YouTube channel, but there's still a lot there. So I'll link to the YouTube channel in the Substack post, but you can just do a search on YouTube for Lost Arts Radio and find it. So it goes back to early 2015, and I don't think that the videos on that channel don't go quite that far back because we weren't doing video right away. It was originally only going to be a radio show. So some of the original stuff was on Blog Talk Radio, which is now dissolved and was bought by somebody else, and those recordings are gone, unfortunately, on Blog Talk Radio. But much of it is still available on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute. So if you have an interest in anything related to alternative health, he really knows his stuff. And even though it was a health crisis that he ended up with there in the end, he still really had a lot of really, really good information. And he tried to do everything he could, every protocol imaginable, to try to heal himself, and nothing worked. So I am interested to see what this autopsy conveys as far as why he died, what specifically it was, because he would not go see an allopathic, normal, in quotes, normal doctor. Which, if it was me personally and I would have been going through that, I would have. And many of you guys would have as well. But he was just that type of guy. You know, he was officially a doctor. He was a PhD doctor. And they always say doctors are the worst patients. And that was certainly the case for him as well. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you to Richard and just mention again, Lost Arch Radio, if you guys are interested in really good health information and really good political stuff. We talked about everything. And I was on the show a little bit with him, but it was mostly him. And I was doing the behind-the-scenes stuff, the production part of it. It was mostly him interviewing other people. So that's what made it really interesting. He always picked really incredible guests, talking about everything from the Constitution to, you know, VAXXs and everything in between. So anyways, blessings to you all, and thank you guys for being here with me tonight. I will leave on that note, but yes, you can find the Diamond Report on many other platforms like Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon as well. You guys know the drill, but it's Diamond Disc pretty much everywhere else. But thank you guys for being here tonight. I'm going to call it for tonight, and we will catch back up at some point. Be watching, if you're on the Substack, be watching for an email about new time, thinking of leaving it on the same day, but new time as far as the start time for the Diamond Report Live, if you're interested in being here live. So thank you guys for being here with me tonight and hanging out and going through the news with me. I always enjoy that. And thank you for putting up with my crazy voice not working 100% yet this week. I think it'll probably be okay by next week, but it's been one of those lingering things for me for whatever reason. I feel fine. It's just my voice isn't 100%. So my apologies for that. Anyway, blessings to you all. I hope you guys have a really good week this week. And yeah, we'll have to watch and see what happens around the first of the month because of the all the crazy stuff that's possibly going to happen as far as the SNAP stuff and all that. So we'll wait and see. But they really want to get us involved in the Civil War. I hope they're not able to pull that one off. That would be good. So anyways, yes, again, blessings to you guys. Make sure you have Jesus in your life and keep your family close to you as well, because I believe personally we're in the end times and we don't have that much time before Jesus Christ himself comes to return and fulfill the rest of prophecy, comes to fulfill the rest of Scripture. So anyway, blessings again and love you guys, and we'll do it again next week. Talk to you later.